Welcome to Escaping Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through, in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory.
This is it, Annabelle. This is the one I've been waiting for this season.
Yes, this is definitely... We've been talking about it a lot. Mm-hmm. We've been counting down the episodes until this one, and we're here. And oh boy, what a ride.
It still hits. It still hits.
Yeah, everybody was so good in this episode. Yeah. Everybody was so good. I mean, even Jared, he had a couple of moments where I was just like, I
know the
moments. But I mean, and you kind of needed that a little bit because this episode is heavy. It is heavy. Like, is all story. There's no... I had actually forgotten how much of a Cass episode this was.
Yeah. So important.
It really is. I'm not surprised that, like, Misha stayed on after this performance. Mm-hmm. Because just... It was so good. It was so good. Like, I'm starting to feel. It's just like... But the way he says that of like, it's not just like, I'm starting to feel, it's like, I'm like, oh, you just feel the weight of these decisions that he's been making. Yeah. And like, then you have the context of like, have you just started to feel?
Yeah.
No, we know you haven't, because we see where this goes. And they're like, I think the very beginning of this episode, I was like, oh, poor baby, like, you don't know where this is, like, what this episode leads to, and I'm just, your character is just gonna get destroyed, and I'm so sad.
This is it, like, this is the Cass episode, like, this is where it all begins, and you can see that character progression now through everything, right up to 15, 18, like, I mean, if you could put a white warp tunnel between that Cass and this Cass, and it's like, oh, you can see where you're going, baby. And this, I don't know, this episode's so beautifully shot. It's so quiet. There's no music in this episode.
No.
They could have put Dean's theme in there somewhere, and it would have made it probably more devastating. But I actually really enjoyed the quietness of this.
Mm-hmm. It made it so much more somber.
Yeah. It's a religious experience.
It truly is.
I mean, so obviously this was written by my boy, Ben Edlund, and directed by Mike Roll, who just hit this out of the park with the directing as well. Like, this is beautifully edited. Like, all the lighting's really good. I mean, there's a point... I'm trying to think where in the episode it is. I think it might be right at the end where Cass is in that hospital corridor and they've lit him like a woman from a horror movie where he's just got the letterbox of eyes. And it's like, yes. The problem I have with this is like they light them so well in this episode, and then you go and watch something from like season 13 and you're like,
where did that go?
They did Misha so dirty. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With that lighting, because they know how to light him. This proves it. They know how to do it. And where did that go? Because they kept most of the same crew on, right? So I watched this with someone else as well, and I was like, this is peak Supernatural. Like, the vibe of like everything is just... I said, I missed when Supernatural was this badass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you got a sense of who everybody was in this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm talking everybody who was on screen, you could tell their motivations in the story that we've gotten.
Yeah. This could have been like easily a segment from a movie. Like, this could have been like the middle part of a movie. It looked so good and it felt so like the stakes are ramping up so high. Yeah. And then I remembered what next episode is.
I know. Like, how do you go from this to that? I don't understand. So if you're a serial watcher, like, you know, you watched it episodically at the time, I can't imagine how you felt. But the thing is, the next week's episode is actually It's a good episode too, from what I remember.
It is.
Like it's an enjoyable episode.
Mm-hmm. And it is related. It is related to the final conversation in this in this one. But it's such a like whiplash moment.
It really is. It really is. And like you kind of live for these kind of episodes in this season, because we've had some real stinkers.
We have, yeah.
And then we get this, and you're like, oh yeah, this is why I watch this show.
Oh, yeah.
This is why I watch this show.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, we're hyping this up. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time. It's going to be an awful time. It's going to be a time. This episode, I maybe paused it 3 times, 4 times at most, because I just wanted to watch it. Like, I was absorbed. So, with that being said, the recap, I caught it, but I was like, so much information, because it's basically an introduction of everybody who's in this episode, essentially.
It's like one of those, it's like when you get a fantasy novel and at the beginning they have all the list of the characters in the book.
Yes.
It was that.
It was, if you take like after Genesis and they're like, the son of Abraham beget the son of whatever, like
the next
it was
one. Yeah, it's that. Yeah.
It had Anna, it had Cass, it had Uriel, it had Pamela, it didn't have Bobby though. It had all about Lilith, and because that was the introduction, as Lilith on screen.
Yeah.
It had Alistair, it had just everybody. It ended with Pamela's death,
which I was actually surprised about, that they almost continued on the sadness of her death into this episode. Starting with the recap, because I thought they were just going to be like, bye Pamela, peace out Pamela.
Yeah. Especially since they didn't know her really. They interacted with her with 3 times, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's the guilt of that one, I think.
Yeah, of course.
She ended pretty badly, and she basically is like, "This is your guy's fault. You dragged me into this." Were basically her dying words.
Yeah.
Which I respect her for that, because no one else really says that to them. Like, you got me killed, guys. Good job.
Yeah. So we get that as the opener, and then one of the best openers. We were talking about this just before we started recording. There's Car's alarm going off, and then we see like a shadow walking, and it's Cass, and it's Cass walking in the rain. There needed to be more of this. Like, there was something about, you could see him getting affected by the rain. It wasn't raining a lot, but it was like a little bit of a drizzle. Can you imagine if like they had made him walk in the rain, and you see the rain everywhere, and he's just dry because he's so that like cool. Just got an aura around him. Anyway, that's my own fantasy. That was going to be way too expensive to do on actual TV. But one can imagine. Yeah. So when Cass appears, he just like holds out his hand and stops the car alarms and walks over to this woman who's on the floor, and she's been like stabbed in the neck. He says, "Goodbye, sister." So clearly an angel. You can kind of guess that she was an angel before that, because she's like in a white dress and like her blonde hair is very angelic. And as we sort of zoom out a little bit from that, we start to see and hear police cars arriving. Yeah. And officer says, "What the hell?" And then it does an aerial shot of the woman like on the ground. And then you sort of see a little bit on the ground, and then a helicopter spotlight goes over, and you see the burned wings on the ground. That's such a cool shot.
It's definitely one like top 10 supernatural shots. There are a few, but this is, I remember very clearly when I watched this for the first time, actually, because I hadn't clocked that she was an angel from what Cass says. I was just like, why is he calling her sister? And like, ooh. And then like they show the wings, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Even now watching it, I had an inkling it was going to happen, but I just forgot like how impressive it is, like, because it's massive, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're in the times now where the death of an angel is a big deal, which I wish they'd kept, because it's such a big deal in this episode. Like, it's like a monumental event that happens, that they managed to kill an angel, because it's basically said that demons can't kill angels up to this point. So it's huge, and the way they did it is just, This, I mean, from a movie. This could be in a movie, like.
Yes. Yeah. I do wonder if there is like a list out there of like episodes to watch to make it look like a movie. So like, do you go from heaven and hell to this one.
Yeah. Yeah, there must be something out there. You can cut it together, I reckon, to make it like a cool supernatural movie.
So it'll be 15 movies and a movie.
This easily could have fit into like the Keanu Reeves like Constantine movie. This like shot and stuff. I don't know. I'm in love with it. It's amazing. From the title card, we move on, and Sam is actually driving for once, which was really weird.
That should have been an indication that something's not right with Dean.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the shot of the road because it looks a lot of places like it's near where I live, where it's very foggy, like low-lying fog and very dark.
I hate that fog.
I hate driving.
I always feel like I'm like about to hit something because it's like it comes at you so fast. I'm like,
You know, Sam says that they're going to meet Ruby because she's been tracking some leads. Dean's not happy. He like makes a noise when Sam says this.
I know she's not exactly on your Christmas list.
Great line. But they're looking for Lilith, and Dean is done. He's just like, look, work with Ruby, don't whatever. I don't give a rat's ass, don't care. And Sam asks him what's wrong, and Dean's still sad about Pamela. He's like, you know, we dragged her back into it. He's feeling the kind of guilt of her dying. He says a line here that I swear he says later on.
Dean, I'm tired of burying friends, Sam.
I mean, they've not even buried that many friends yet.
I mean, this has been a fair few. There's been a fair few.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, actually. Like everyone they've worked with, apart from Bobby.
Basically, yeah.
Yep. And Dean's like, we're following the trail, whatever. He said, I'm just getting tired. And Sam says, well, get angry. Well, anger is Dean's constant state of being, Sam. So, I mean, but yeah, he's very resigned at the moment. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Do you think it is just because of Pamela, or do you think it's what Tessa said to him about the angels having not maybe a good purpose for him, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think also it's just, I'm sure it's also the fight that they had about like Sam's feelings towards Dean. It's just gotten to the point where it's just too much piling on, and we all know that Dean doesn't have an escape from anything.
Yeah.
So I think it really is just like he needed a moment and he's just not getting them. True.
And he's like an old man now, you know, like mentally he's like 70, right? Mm-hmm. It's just everything. So he's just fed up. So they arrive at the motel they're staying in, and Dean says, home, crappy home. I'm going to cross-stitch as a sampler. And as Sam turns on the lights, Uriel is there. Very interesting dynamic, because Cass is there too. We didn't see him straight away. Because we know that Cass previously, at least, has been Uriel's superior. Mm-hmm. But in this scene, Uriel's very much taken the lead. And Cass is almost like, he's not leant against the wall, but he might as well be. Cass is looking pretty checked out. He doesn't really engage much in this conversation. Because Uriel just says...
You were needed.
He doesn't address Sam because Sam is way beneath Uriel. It's like a bug on his shoe. Mm-hmm.
He literally just says Winchester and Winchester, like doesn't even give them their names.
Yeah, exactly. And Dean is not having it. The difference in tone here from when he's first talked to them too, like he was quite respectful to angels to start with, and this has completely gone out the window because he's just like, needed, we just got back from needed. And Uriel says, you mind your tone with me. And he's like, no, you mind your damn tone with us. And I'm like, Sam explains that he got back from Pamela's funeral. And Dean says, you know, you remember her. And he actually says, you remember her, Cass? You burned her eyes out. I was like, first of all, calling him Cass again. Secondly, yeah, bring that up. Because he did try to warn her, but it still happened.
Yeah, then she died saving one of your precious seals. So maybe you can stop pushing us around like chess pieces for 5 freaking minutes!
Which, again, really fitting language.
Yes. And, like, we don't hear Dean yell very often.
No.
So when he says 5 freaking minutes, like, in that tone, I was like, oh, gosh. He's about to shoot some people. Like, it's not going to work, but he's going to shoot some people.
I mean, Sam told him to get angry in the car, so clearly it did something.
He took it to heart.
Yeah. And Uriel says to Dean that...
We raised you out of hell for our purposes.
Yeah,
And Dean's like, well, what were those? And what do you want from me? And Uriel's like, well, you could start with gratitude. There's so many good lines in this. I don't want to just like read them off at the same time. It's like, they are such good lines.
They are. I mean, Uriel is great. He's an evil son of a bitch, but like, he is great.
Yeah, I have feelings about Uriel that I'll mention at the end of this episode, because I don't think he's that evil. Uriel kind of looks to Cass and then says, look, like, we don't care. Like, Cass, we don't care, right? We don't care about your feelings. Looking at Cass, like, both of us here together, and Cass just kind of looks away.
My friend here, Cass, like, pulling him forward.
Might as well be dragging him forward by the tie and being like, we don't care. They explain that 7 angels from their specific garrison have been killed. And Dean automatically assumes that it's demons and like asks how they're doing it, but Uriel doesn't know. Sam says, this is the first time he's kind of spoken in this interaction, says, what do you want us to do about it? I mean, a demon with the juice to ice angels has to be out of our league, right? Which makes sense because so far all the demons they've said haven't been able to kill an angel and don't know how to. And Uriel's like, well, we can handle them once we find whoever it is. Cass goes on then to explain why they actually want Dean. Because they've captured Alistair. We knew that from last episode. And they want Dean to come and interrogate him. Yeah. Because he's his student, as Uriel puts it. Cass says, Dean, you're our best hope. Your only hope. Everyone can only...
That's exactly what I was thinking when he said that. That's... They had to do it once, right?
Right. The Star Wars references.
Yeah.
Does that mean, is Cass Princess Leia? Dean says, no way, you can't ask me to do this, Cass, not this. Him using Cass is so personal to me. It's very inconsistent, though, because he's only called him Cass to Sam at this point, right?
Yes.
This is the first time he's called him Cass to his face.
Yes.
There's not a lot of reaction there.
No, you would think that Uriel would be like, call him by his proper name, essentially.
Yeah. So I think that implies that Dean's been calling Cass for a while. We just haven't seen it on screen. And then, Uriel says, who said anything about asking? And everyone just disappears except Sam. I love Sam so much for this, because he just looks around and goes,
Damn it!
It was pretty funny.
I mean, what else do you do?
It was really funny. I don't know why. I love that they just like outright just were like, no, Sam here. Bye.
Yeah.
But I mean, separating them is actually... It's quite smart if they want to manipulate Dean into doing something, because he doesn't have Sam there going like, you don't have to do this, man. Dean only has to deal with Dean then, which he's not very good at doing. Yeah. We go to an old warehouse building, as usual, and we see Alistair. He's chained to like a 6-pointed star, presumably made of iron, with lots of chains. I always notice he's got bare feet in this. I don't know why. It's just
I noticed that too, yeah. I thought it was weird.
And he's surrounded by like a chalk devil's trap that doesn't look like anything we've seen. What?
So, in wishful thinking, when Sam got electrocuted, his shoe fell off. Do you think the same thing happened when the angels grabbed him?
Do you think his shoes were just left behind, like smoking?
That's why I started laughing.
I 100% think that happened. So, Cass explains that the devil's trap is old Enochian, so he should be bound completely. They're both kind of looking at him through this metal door with a window. And Dean's like, cool, right, bye. Tries to leave. And Cass is like, where are you going? And he's like, well, I'm going to hitchhike back. Thanks. Uriel stops him and says,
Angels are dying, boy.
Ooh. And Dean is really like not going to do... First of all, he's not going to do this. Like when they first arrive, because he's like, look, everyone's dying. I get it. You can make me do whatever you want, but you can't make me do this.
Yeah.
And then he only turns and stops when Cass asks him. Because Cass says, this is too much to ask, I know, but we have to ask it. Which... So I was watching this with my husband. And they have like an intense kind of stare off here where they kind of look at each other for a bit. And he just turned to me and started staring at me. And he was like, it's weird, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know. The intense eye contact is weird in this show.
He's looking at his soul.
It just reminds me of that like meme where it's like, and I looked at him, and he looks at me. But it's like, it happens so frequently. And it's like, Dean and Sam don't stare at each other this much.
Well, it's because Cass doesn't understand how humans work, right? He's like, if I keep looking at this man, he will do what as I say, or as I ask.
Possibly.
Because I make him uncomfortable.
I don't know. To me, it's like Cass maintaining eye contact to prove how serious he is in this situation. Because often and in this episode it happens too, he's not looking at them. He's looking away or he's looking down. And it's only when, I've said it before, he's got something serious that he's trying to get across, does Cass look at people in their face. So Dean says that he wants to talk to Cass alone. He doesn't call him Castiel at any point in this episode.
No.
And Uriel says, I think I'll go seek revelation. We might have some further orders. Which we've talked about before. He hasn't adopted Angel Radio as a... Because he hates humans so much, he would never say it. Mm-hmm. Dean asks him to get some donuts.
Of course.
And Uriel says, this one just won't quit, will he? I think I'm starting to like you, boy, before he disappears. Dean makes a joke, which I thought was quite funny. Says, if you guys don't walk enough, you're going to get flabby. And also says, I'm starting to think Junkless has a better sense of humour than you do. And Cass's one of my most iconic lines is, Uriel's the funniest angel in the garrison, ask anyone. I can see that. Uriel's quite animated, right?
Yes. For beings that don't feel, Uriel feels a lot.
He does. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes me think of that film. One of my absolute favourite films of all time. I don't know why it's one of my favourite films. I think I just watched it at a point in my life when I was like a teenager and it imprinted on me. But Equilibrium. Have you seen that film?
Really?
I love that film.
Really?
I love that
film.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's got Christian Bale in and Sean Bean, and the whole point of it is like people... they're basically angels. Like if you compare them to Angels and Supernatural, like it's very similar. They basically take a drug that stops... If you've never seen it, it's quite an old film now. Society takes a drug that stops them from feeling emotions, but there are like rebels who stop taking it to feel. And you could definitely compare Cass to Christian Bale's character in the episode, right?
Yeah.
It's a really good comparison.
It is, yeah.
But it also works here because there's this conversation that Dean and Cass, which we're going to go through, have. But, you know, just like in that movie, like Cass is doubting so much about being able to feel things and like wanting to feel things, but feeling guilty about it. But everyone around him and all the superiors in that movie were already off the drug and like feeling stuff already. So it's like he's feeling all this guilt for probably nothing. Like everyone else is doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. In this instance, jumping off the cliff with everybody is actually a good thing.
Yeah, just do it, Cass. just fall over the edge. So this is one of the Destiel conversations. Like this is the setup to this. So I don't know how you can watch this and then see where it goes and think, this isn't where they were leading up to. I'm just a crazy shipper woman.
You know, after that whole episode with the siren.
Yeah.
And then this. You're saying to me that Dean is not curious, at least?
He's just a straight man, Annabelle. I don't know what you're talking about.
I forgot. It was no homo. that whole episode was no homo.
No homo. So Dean says, like, well, no, what's going on? Since when does Uriel put a leash on you? Because, you know, you're supposed to be in charge of him. And Cass says, my superiors have begun to question my sympathies. He's like, your sympathies? And I forgot how he delivered this line because I always thought there was a bigger pause here. But he says,
I was getting too close to the humans in my charge. You. They feel I've begun to express emotions, doorways to doubt. This can impair my judgment.
It's everything, Annabelle.
And the funny thing is, it does.
It's true. I'm trying to remember when Naomi confirmed, like at what points in the important storyline she confirmed that Cass was like mind wiped. because it's definitely around here at some point was one of the times during this bit.
I mean, I could see that from the last interaction that they've had
Yeah.
to this one. It just have the potential to say that Cass isn't really acting the same.
No.
He's definitely a lot cooler.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah,
As in he's cold, like he's gotten colder.
it's cold. Yeah, not as in like wearing sunglasses, like kick flipping. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm interested to watch the episode again because I want to try and remember. But this is a point where he is definitely doubting, so they're kind of watching him. This was just. I was thinking about this too. I'm sorry, I'm going off. But Cass is like, I'm getting too close to like you, to Dean. But what we've seen of their interactions, they haven't interacted a whole lot in this season, really.
No.
So there was the barn, right? Where I explained that he was taken out of hell. There was the Halloween episode, which where Cass was starting to express that he was having doubts to Dean,
right.
Which was a big moment, but like they weren't besties. And then other than that, there was like Heaven and Hell, where he was trying to kill Anna, and didn't really have much movement in there to say like this isn't. He wasn't totally on board, but he was still going with it. And then Dean's not seen him, as far as we know, since then.
Right, not since, like...
Oh, apart from at the end of the last episode, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he basically turned up and was like, we manipulated you into saving a seal. Congrats.
But he also admitted at that point that he was close by.
Yeah, that's true.
So he is close because he's probably set on other missions, right? But instead has been probably secretly watching, being the angel on Dean's shoulder.
Yeah.
Being the stalker.
I mean, yeah, a bit stalkerish behaviour, but I mean, for an angel, we'll let it slide, I guess. Yeah, you're right. Unless there's other interactions going on off screen that we don't know about, it must seem quite strange to Dean that Cass is kind of saying that he's feeling sympathies towards him when there's not been a whole lot of evidence towards that. There's been a bit. There's been like trusting Dean with like confiding in him about the doubts he's having. And there's been a little bit of edging towards disobeying orders in their interactions. But to Dean, this must feel very one-sided.
But then if you look at like, again, the very end conversation that they have, this showing his sympathies might also be because of who Dean is.
Yeah.
Like what his whole responsibility is in the grand scheme of things. So he might have his sympathies in that way too.
That's true.
Because Cass knows all of the information that Dean doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. I think at this point he's talking about basically having sympathy towards his plight, right? Dean's plight. And how that does not gel with who he is as a person. And he knows that because he's watched them and seen the choices that they make and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the whole like not being the man that his dads want him to be.
Yeah, I mean, look.
I'm getting really far ahead with that, but like coming back to this conversation, that's how I'm also seeing it, not just that it's sympathies in terms of like what Dean is going through.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, Dean says, well, tell Uriel or whoever that you don't want me doing this, trust me. Dean doesn't trust himself to be this person. And Cass says, want it? No, like he doesn't want this to happen, but I have been told we need it. Dean says,
You asked me to open that door and walk through it. You will not like what walks back out.
For what it's worth, I would give anything not to have you do this.
Again, is like the doubting side, because he's like, if I could disobey my orders, I would. But it's like, Cash, you can, my friend. You're not quite there yet, but you're almost there. We're so proud of you. And that's weirdly what convinces Dean to go ahead. It's Cass. Cass convinced him by saying, I don't want you to do this, but we have to for the greater good kind of thing.
Yeah.
Another sacrifice that Dean has to make.
Yes. And we know Dean likes his sacrifices.
Yeah, exactly. So we see Dean wheel in a cart to Alistair's room that he's in, and it's like covered for now. And Alistair is singing and sort of swaying slightly. To Cheek, which if you Google it, we think Fred Astaire, could be Frank Sinatra, could be someone else. Old Hollywood, basically.
Early jazz.
Early jazz, yeah, like that. And Dean pulls the cloth off the cart to show that he's got like torture instruments with him, and Alistair laughs at him. Oh, Alistair, I won't ever be able to get across the like creepiness of his voice in this podcast, because absolute stellar performance, like amazing. He's so scary.
He is, and it's not just his voice, but like he's like twitching in this first part, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like the way he like holds he has like a furrowed brow, but like he's really intense but really lazy. Oh god, it's just it's a demon bravo that's like deserved.
Yeah, it's the fact that he's restrained through most of this acting and he's still managing to like knock it out of the park is wild. It's so good. And yeah, he's just so casual through all of this.
Yeah.
It's scary. Alistair says like,
I'm sorry. This is a very serious, very emotional situation for you.
It really is.
it is. And he's like, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, are they serious? They sent you to torture me. Like, he knows that this is... If Alistair knows this is messed up, it's like, well...
You've got a problem.
Yeah, it's like, even I wouldn't have done this.
And I'm a demon that enjoys torture. I mean, it was so stupid. It was so stupid because it was... Some of the stuff that gets said in this would not have been said
Yeah.
if
They
it
haven't
wasn't.
sent him. I know.
Yeah.
I know. But they're trying to mess with Dean. This is the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Dean's a very professional, I guess, in his interrogation, because he's just like, just answer the, you're going to tell me who's killing the angels, I want a name. And he doesn't really address Alistair at all, other than to ask him questions for a bit. Alistair taunts him quite a lot. One of the things he says to him is, maybe you don't want to do this, maybe you're scared. And Dean says, like, I'm here, aren't I? And Alistair says, not entirely. You left part of yourself back in the pit. Let's see if we can get the two of you back together again, shall we? Which I thought was really interesting. Like, leaving the kind of demonic part of him, I guess. All of this makes season, 9 and 10 way more poignant. And then, they completely, I feel like, screwed the pooch on it, because it just made him into some kind of, demon playboy. And...
Yeah.
It should have been way more serious. If you go back to the conversations here, Dean becoming a demon should have been very dark.
Yeah.
Very dark. I feel like they almost pulled it off when, actually, more so when he was possessed by Michael with
That's
the
true.
Torture and stuff. But when he was a demon, it was it's like, I'm free to do what I want, so I'm going to drink girly drinks with umbrellas in and wear Hawaiian shirts. Not torture demons in the pit. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it was... There was something about this scene of, their faces got so close.
Yeah.
Dean was right up in Alistair's face, I am not afraid of you, but even though I'm absolutely terrified, but I am not afraid of you. And I was just, when I was watching this, I was like, I could never be an actor. I don't think I'd ever be comfortable being that close to somebody else's face. Ever.
It's true. Yeah, I think I struggle with that. Unless I knew them really, really well. But even then it would be awkward.
Mm-hmm. Because they are literally inches apart. And when you're inches apart, you don't really see them. You're looking at a particular point on their face, right? So it's just anyway, that's just me being focusing on the wrong details, but it played off really well to be so up in his face and being you're
it's
going to be disappointed.
It's like an intimidation technique, right? To get that close to somebody. Dean says that you're going to be disappointed, talking about getting the two of them back together, so bringing his demonic side over. And Alistair says, you have not disappointed me so far. Come on, you want to get a little payback for everything I did to you for the pokes and prods. Which I thought, again, was interesting that he doesn't say that he's disappointed by Dean here, which is what I was talking about last week, where he, Dean almost enjoyed the approval that he got from Alistair.
It's made worse again by that last conversation in this episode.
Yeah.
That, he disappointed the people he didn't want to disappoint, but, got the approval of the wrong.
Yeah, I mean...
Is this like a don't look for your father and other people because it's not going to work out well?
They're not going to be good role models, maybe? I don't know. So when Dean doesn't really rise to that, Alistair starts to bring in John because he says to him, what about all the things I did to your daddy? I don't think that before this Dean knew that Alistair had tortured John, because obviously John had left hell before Dean had got there. First of all. Otherwise, they definitely would have used him against him, 100%.
Yeah. They did a hunter's burial for John, which should have destroyed his soul, right?
It stops you from becoming a ghost. It doesn't necessarily stop you from going to heaven or hell.
So when he leaves hell...
So I thought about this, because he did escape hell. From what we find out in this episode... It would make sense if there was maybe some divine intervention to then stop him from going back again.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think John earned his way to heaven. I think it was convenient for him to be there. Mm-hmm. Which kind of sits better with me, I feel.
Yeah. He didn't deserve it. He just got put there.
Yeah. And we know heaven's not that great. Yeah. Yeah. So we cut to Sam quite suddenly, and he's called Ruby, and she's like, I can still smell the angels. And because Sam's called her to try and find Dean. And Ruby's like, well, I don't actually know what your problem is, because they have Alistair. Dean tortures him. We find out what's going on, what's the matter. Very much like demon sense, sort of logic there, well, it's fine. It's just a little bit of torture. What's the problem?
You get the information that you need. Alistair's no longer in the game. That's it.
And then Sam says he can't do it. And Ruby's like, well, I get it. You don't want him going all torture master again. And Sam says here, which is one of the worst things Sam's ever said about Dean.
No, I mean, he can't do it. He can't get the job done. Something happened to him downstairs, Ruby. He's not what he used to be. He's not strong enough.
Do you think he means that he's not strong enough to come back from who he would be if he tortured Alistair? Or does he just think that he's just not strong enough to hurt Alistair enough to actually get the information? Does he think Dean's gone soft? I'm saying soft in quotation marks.
Mm-hmm. I took this as it not being pretty much of a follow-up of the Siren episode.
Yeah.
That he doesn't think that Dean is mentally prepared to do this.
Yeah.
And that he wouldn't be able to fortify himself. How Dean was saying, if you put me in there, I'm gonna come out a different person.
Yeah.
Sam recognizes that. So he does want to save him in that regard. He doesn't want him to go through it, but I don't feel like it was he doesn't believe in Dean, which is really, really tough.
It is really tough. Sam's on a bad path at the moment. There's no trust between brothers. Because I do think it's to do with his capabilities too. He just doesn't think that Dean can do it. He won't be able to get the information and will end up getting hurt in a different way, or...
Which, he was proved right.
Yeah, this is the problem with this.
Yeah.
Because Ruby says, and you are strong enough, and Sam says, I will be. And I was like, ooh. Yeah. So back to Alistair and Dean. And Alistair explains that he had John on the rack for close to 100 years. Dean accuses him of stalling, but he's still saying he keeps going and says, John Winchester made a good name for himself 100 years, and I'd make him the same offer I made you, that I put down my blade if he picked up one. And Dean's still trying to interrogate him, but Alistair continues, he said 9 each and every time. I was like, oh, damned, if I couldn't break him. You know, pulled out all the stops, but John was made of something unique, the stuff of heroes. And then came Dean Winchester. I thought I was up against it again. I hate this one so much.
Yeah.
But Daddy's little girl, he broke in 30. Oh, just not the man your daddy wanted you to be, huh, Dean?
I hate everything about this.
I hate everything too.
I was talking, it's a bit liar. I was talking to Annabelle before the podcast about like, maybe Kripke needs to go to like therapy about his own like issues around his father, because I'm seeing a theme here between Supernatural and The Boys that is so close. Like it's so close. Did you disappoint your father, Kripke? Like, did he say that to you? Because it's not cool, but like addressing it through media is one way to deal with it, but it also hurts us.
For all of those out there with father issues who feel like they've been a disappointment, this is not helpful.
It's not helpful. It isn't ever resolved.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it confirms everything we know about Dean, and obviously that Alistair very much knows where to poke him mentally. Yep. Mm-hmm. You know, not all of the torture in hell is clearly physical. There's a lot of emotional, mental torture as well. I mean, we know that Dean thinks he disappointed John, like, constantly.
Absolutely.
Everything he does disappoints John. The only thing that actually could have made this scene more devastating was if Dean was wearing John's jacket and had taken it off at this point rather than his, like, canvas one. Yeah, that he has. Because, boy, would that have been symbolic.
That would have been horrendous, and we would have all hated it.
I mean, yeah, taking off
we
the
all
jacket
hate it anyway.
in order to torture someone, like taking off the mantle of his father, who he knows has disappointed him. Come on, like, costume department, where were you? I don't know, something about calling Dean Daddy's little girl. I just hate that so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole like calling a boy a girl because they're weak or whatever. It's just like, ugh.
The misogyny of it all.
Yeah.
But if we fit it into our trans-natural storyline, it works quite well.
That's true.
It makes it way less misogynistic, kind of. Does it? No, probably not, actually. More transphobic, less misogynistic. Yeah. You can't trade one for the other and still be morally fine. But yeah, so Dean starts to torture Alistair. The first way that he does it is he gets a big jug of holy water, which I thought was kind of cool how he wrapped the rosary around it. And Alistair's like not impressed. He's like, come on, grasshopper. You're going to have to get creative to impress me. And Dean says, well, you know, in hell I could still dream. And I dreamed over and over again of this moment, essentially. Alistair looks a little nervous as Dean picks up a needle and then fills it with holy water, then goes up to him and is obviously going to inject him with it. So he says, let's get started. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to Cass listening to Alistair scream outside and looking very pensive about it. I don't know what expression he's making.
It's his sympathies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's feeling what he's made Dean do.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess he's thinking like, oh, he's actually going through with it because I asked him to. Mm-hmm. Oh man, this is such a good episode for them and I hate it so much.
So we come back and Dean is putting the needle back down on his like tool cart. Dean says, let me know if you want some more. There's plenty left. Alistair says, go directly to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I love the fact that Alistair apparently hates Earth, right? Yeah. But knows all of the references.
Well, does he know them or does he just get shouted? Like, do people just shout at him while he's torturing them? You know, so he's picked up some good tidbits from here and there. Yeah,
maybe. I can imagine a dean saying exactly this to him.
Right. This is the result of spending a decade with Dean.
Yes,
The pop culture references. This is what you get.
This is definitely what you get. We then cut to Ruby, and she is doing a spell over a candle, and it lights this map on fire, and it burns until it shows a circle, and that's where they'll find Dean in that circle. Mm-hmm. Ruby says,
It's a good thing angels aren't concerned with hiding their dirty business. Not used to being spied on. I mean, who'd be stupid enough to try?
Sam doesn't even acknowledge any of that. He just says, Ruby, it's been weeks. I need it.
I'm sorry, but this makes my theory so much funnier. This whole
It does. And when this was happening, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely what they thought. It was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Getting it on was how he... It's supposed to be demon sex. It was, because Ruby says, you don't seem happy about it. And he says, do you think I want to do this? This is the last thing. I'm just like, and he sits on the bed.
Yeah, he sits on the bed. They were definitely insinuating that the thing was demon sex right up until the point where it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Because then Ruby gets on his lap and he says, it's okay, Sammy, you can have it. It's just like, oh, hello. Ruby goes in to kiss Sam, and as she pulls away, she gets a knife from her boot, cuts her arm, and then Sam drinks out of his arm like he's a vampire. I feel like that's very Queen of the Damned.
Yeah, it's so vampire. It's it's such a cliche.
Mm-hmm.
I hate
the only
it.
thing worse, it would have been if she had cut her boob or something, her chest.
The top, or I was expecting neck. I don't know why. And that's always this squicks me out. I don't like it. I'm glad they made it less sexual because it was getting pretty.
It's getting pretty heated though.
It was getting pretty heated.
I kind of wish that I could go back in time to do what we're doing now back then.
I know.
To really figure out how big of a reaction this would have been.
Yeah.
Because it would have been holy mackerel, surely.
Yeah, it was blood this whole time. I mean, it makes sense because, demon blood started this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sam's a vampire now, I guess.
Yep. Just without the teeth. We then come back to the prison, or the room that Alistair's being held in. Torture bay.
Torture bay, yeah, sure.
Dean picks up Ruby's knife, and Alistair says, oh, there's a little pig poker. I wonder where that went. Which, good point.
Yeah, because he had it last.
Yeah,
so the angels
that's what I
must have
thought.
taken it at the same time they took him.
Yeah. Dean covers it in holy water, which is kind of interesting because it just sort of falls off of it. But okay.
I mean, yeah. Is water on metal? I don't know what he was wanting it to do. Maybe he's anointing it,
Yeah, it could be. But I mean, that knife is already going to be pretty... Maybe makes it stronger. I don't know. I mean, it could just be Dean, trying things out. He's like, oh, I wonder what happens if I do this.
I mean, yeah.
And Alistair says, do you think this is really going to fix you, give you closure? This is just sad. That's really sad. Sad.
Dean doesn't think this is going to fix him, though, because he didn't want to do it. No,
Dean dreamt about it and had the fantasies of being able to do this to him, but he didn't really want to do it.
Yeah. He kind of knows revenge doesn't work because he's not that gung-ho about going after Lilith. And Sam mostly is, not just because of the apocalypse thing, but also because revenge.
Right. I guess he's seen what happens when people get their revenge. It doesn't work out well.
I feel like Dean actually took the lesson of John on board at some point and was like, yeah, this is where this gets you sent to hell. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Whereas Sam's like, no, revenge.
He does a slow stab into Alistair's gut, and I was just like, oh, I hate the slow stab. I hate it so much. It's so visceral. I mean, you don't see it, but you can just you see his arm just move slowly, and it's just oh,
not nice.
Oh, I hate it. Alistair says, I carved you into a new animal, Dean. There's no going back. And Dean says, maybe you're right, but it's my turn to carve.
Ooh, trading cool lines.
Mm-hmm. And then it pans over to a pressure wheel.
It's like a valve.
Valve, that's the word I was looking for. And it starts to turn, and we see this drip of water, and it's landing directly on a part of the devil's trap markings. And then it goes to the next room, and Cass is in there, and the lights flicker and burst. and Anna appears. She actually calls him Castiel.
Yes, she does. Yeah, only Dean calls Cass in this episode.
I guess he's surprised that Anna is in Anna's body.
Yeah, she got exploded.
She got exploded. She says, her body was destroyed, but she's sentimental and she called in some old favors, which means she still has friends.
It does. This is just convenience, though, because I'm pretty sure the only reason that Cass gets Jimmy Novak's body back later is because God.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I do also wonder if Anna is actually physically there. Like, they could have gotten away with her not being there at this point.
That's true. Yeah.
And just being like a vision to Castiel, because there's no, like, all of her interactions are just between those two, so it doesn't really matter if she has her human body or not, so she could just be presenting herself in this way.
That's true, yeah. I mean, fine, vessels, how do they work, but okay.
Cass says, you shouldn't be here, we still have orders to kill you, and Anna's like, well, I don't think you'll try. But she's worried about Uriel because she knows Uriel would definitely try.
Yeah.
He says he went to receive revelation and she's like, right.
Okay.
I
mean, because she doesn't believe that's where he's gone, right? If you think about their conversation they're having. So, okay, whatever, Cass. You believe what you want to believe.
You poor naive child.
Yeah, I mean, she is his superior, or she was. So she probably does look down on him a little bit. And I think Cass looks up to Anna in this episode.
Definitely.
There's definitely that kind of bond between them.
It cuts back to Torture Bay for a minute, just briefly. Alistair's, he's getting worked over.
Yeah.
He's starting to get bloody and he's got blood in his mouth. He spits on the floor. It then cuts back to Anna and Cass. Anna is not pleased that Dean is in there torturing and why are you letting Dean do this? And Cass says it's God's work. She questions that. She's like, torturing, you think that's God's work? You have to stop him before you ruin the one real weapon you have. And that line is so loaded and you don't know why yet, but and it takes a whole season to get to why that line is so important.
Yeah, you would forget that if you were watching this, I'm sure, but fine.
Yeah, and Cass says, who are we to question the will of God?
That's so funny coming from Cass, sorry.
It is. Then Anna's response of being like, unless this isn't his will, and the thing is, it absolutely is.
It is 100%, actually. Oh, no. Yeah.
And Cass is like, well, if it's not coming from God, then who's it coming from? And Anna's like, I don't know, maybe our superiors, but not God himself. Which, I mean, is technically true, but it's kind of not, because Chuck is doing whatever he wants to do, and apparently writing his own story makes it true.
I mean, yeah, but it is coming from their super. I mean, he's not involved in any way in giving the angels orders at this point. I mean, he's been pulling the strings, but as far as they know, he's absent. So it is just other angels orchestrating this.
That's true.
He kind of lined up and he's seeing where the dominoes fall, kind of thing. Yeah.
Dean pours the holy water into a goblet.
Yeah.
And throws it at Alistair's face, and he asks, who's murdering the angels, and he starts gargling on it. It's kind of gross. It's very gross. And then it cuts back to Anna, and she says,
"The father you love. You think he wants this? You think he'd ask this of you? You think this is righteous?"
That was thrown around a lot in this episode.
Yeah, they do say righteous a lot, and I can't say righteous without thinking of righteous. Like Bill and Ted. I don't know why. Just that word for me is so funny.
Cass is contemplating her words, and she says, what you're feeling, it's called doubt. It then cuts back to Alistair, and again the same thing's happening with the holy water. It cuts back to Anna and Cass.
But you can do the right thing. You're afraid, Cass. I was too. But together, we can
Together.
Everybody wants to be together.
I know, together forever. Also, Anna calls Cass. That's a good point too. It's almost like the people who are trying to win him over to his more doubting side, and trying to get him to leave the kind of angel thinking. Mm-hmm. It's almost like there's a differentiation between Cass and Castiel. Like, people call him Castiel later on in the series too, but it's mostly angels who knew him previously, who want him to work for heaven. But the people who want him on, to work for them on Earth are always like Cass. So maybe there's a differentiation there.
I also don't think that Anna is necessarily in the right here either.
No.
Like, I feel like at this current moment, there's 3 teams. There's Uriel's team, there's Anna's team, and then there's Team Free Will.
Yeah.
that hasn't formed yet. This is Anna's recruitment at this point.
I am nothing like you. You fell. Go.
And then she does vanish.
Yeah. Again, she calls him Cass before she goes. I wonder if Cass at some point sees himself as almost like 2 people, right? Or 2 angels. There was like Castiel is his angelicness and Cass is his almost his human side. Mm-hmm. I guess trying to consolidate them together is quite difficult because he never really seems to manage it. I don't think. And sort of mesh them together. He's either seems to be full on angel or depowered, basically human. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love his character so much. Sorry.
It's a good character. It's one of the more interesting developments. They took this very powerful being and there are moments where he's definitely is an ex machina.
Yeah.
But because they nuked him so many times, he became more interesting.
I mean, they had to. You can't just have a character with superpowers coming in and saving the day every time. They have to. They definitely have to nerf him. It's just a shame.
That's true. Cut back to Alistair and Dean. I sigh because this is the beginning of the worst conversation between Alistair and Dean.
Yeah, it really is.
So Alistair says, you're not going deep enough. You lack the resources. Reality is just, I don't know, too concrete up here. And then Dean pours a container of salt in his mouth. I can't imagine what that was like as an actor. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't actually salt because
there was a little bit of salt, and then they put the container far enough in his mouth that I don't think they had to pour anything in anymore. But it was still nasty.
It was really gross. Alistair says, you have no idea how bad it really was and what you really did for us. This is the first time that Dean kind of cracks.
Yeah.
Because he tells him to shut up. Mm-hmm. Every other time he's just being focused. And I think Alistair being Alistair, he knows, right?
Yeah.
So he starts to push and prod more at that.
Mm-hmm. Shut up.
Oh, bloody thing, Dean. Louise and Lilith wanted you there in the first place.
He's like, well, then I guess I'm going to have to make you shut up. Alistair starts to talk again and pours even more salt down his gullet. We then cut to Sam, and Sam's looking all determined.
Dean does this driving too, so I don't know why I give Sam crap for doing it, but their faces are just as funny as each other's. Where it's I am driving.
I am driving seriously.
I have never driven seriously like that in my life.
Well, I guess he's also driving angry, right? I've driven angry.
Yeah, I've driven angry, but it tends to be more music in the car.
Yeah, well, Sam doesn't really listen to angry music, right? He listens to that country.
It would just be I don't know, Taylor Swift's Bad Blood or something. Driving really angry at night. It hadn't come out yet. It's the only reason why.
Right?
Yeah.
We come back to Alistair and Dean. Even though he's being tortured, he's very bloody at this point. He's got cuts all over his body. He says, oh, I got something caught in my throat. Yeah, I think it's in my throat because obviously the salt has gone down.
Well, the thing is, he's so used to pain. So, I read something once in a fantasy novel that talks about embracing pain, basically. And because I can't remember what was happening in that, but basically they were trying to be very stoic. They were no, you just have to let it out, basically, which is what Alistair's doing here. He's screaming and stuff, but it's really not mentally affecting him in any way. So I don't know, he's just a pro at what he does. And I imagine the only way you get that good at like torturing people is having, he's a demon, so
At one point, it was probably all done to him.
exactly.
And then he just took it on. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same for Dean, right? It's the same. It's the same deal. That's why he can still joke around. And the worst thing about this that you have to think about all the way through is it's not Alistair's body. Dean's
true.
actually doing this to a human who's possessed.
So it was interesting when he started the torture. I mean, he probably killed the person when he injected water into the person's veins.
Yeah,
Not a medical professional, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty bad.
I'm pretty sure that's bad. Yeah, I don't think it would outright kill you unless it had like a big bubble in it. But it's not good. I think the stabbing probably didn't help.
Yeah, so I think I'm surprised that he didn't like essentially kill the vessel first.
Yeah.
So that I'm also guessing, because we had said this before, like, do you think that the vessel that Alistair took was already dead? That would be my assumption of Dean as well, that he probably thinks that the human that he's possessed is also gone.
Yeah.
So he doesn't feel so guilty about it. But I would have thought he would have like done that first, like just killed the vessel and being like, okay, at least now I know I'm not killing like a person.
So much more brutal though as well though, isn't it? Like the direct kind of murdering of someone. That doesn't feel very Dean to me, but he is killing
Is it
someone
worse
here. Yeah, I know, right? Is it worse? I mean, that's one thing they didn't do here that I was almost surprised at when I first watched this episode, was like, you would think Alistair to mess with Dean would, if the vessel wasn't already dead, would like cede control to the person. That would totally mess him up.
Especially after what he did to Meg.
Yeah, and then Meg properly calling him out on that when she came back as a ghost. Like, you killed me, Dean. And he's like, oh yeah, I did. Crap.
Like literally in this season, like the second episode.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm guessing that Alistair, probably because he's such a strong demon, first of all. I mean, Lilith doesn't, though. I was going to say, automatically kind of almost kills the vessel when he possesses them just because, like, she's strength. But Lilith doesn't, so that's not necessarily true. Yeah. Brutal, anyway, is what I'm saying.
So I would say that probably Alistair does kill his vessels just for the like, because we obviously know that he enjoys torture, right?
Yeah.
So, but I can't imagine him wanting to sort of share the same headspace as a human.
Yeah, that's true.
So he would like mess with them for a while and then kill them and then be like, okay, this is my body now.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't know.
No.
This is all stuff that we have to like just guess.
We're filling in some gaps, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So after he says, I've got something caught my throat, Dean says, well, strap in because I've got just starting the fun. He goes back to the car and with Dean's back turned to Alistair starts to talk again. And he says, it was supposed to be your father. And Dean ignores that and he says he was supposed to bring it on, but in the end it was you. And this intrigues Dean. He says, bring what on? He says, well, every night the same offer, remember, same as your father. After pouring the holy water on the knife, he pours salt on it.
Yeah.
Because he gets salt in the wound, quite literally. Alistair says, and you finally said, sign me up. The first time you picked up my razor, the first time you sliced into that weeping bitch, who we don't know who that is.
No.
I kind of wish that we did.
I guess, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And Dean turned to face Alistair. He says that was the first seal. And he sort of walks up closer to Alistair. He says, you're lying.
And it is written that the first seal shall be broken when a righteous man sheds blood in hell. As he breaks, so shall it break.
Yeah. I mean, pretty big deal. I mean, it's like, it doesn't have the same impact. I'm like, yeah, I know this. But like, this is why I think, because we've had this conversation as well, like, is John in heaven? This is why I think John is in heaven, because when he did escape from hell, I think the angels just ferried him away to stop the seal from being broken. But then obviously Dean got sent to hell through machinations of Lilith. supposedly. And
It's a bit of a retcon on that one.
yeah, it's a little bit like
because it was Azazel who kind of triggered it all. But okay.
yeah. So yeah, it could have been John. It would have been. This is one thing I have issue with the show. I know we're saying like this is all fueled into like Dean's, feeling that John's disappointed in him and not living up to his father and everything. It would have been such a good reality moment for John to break the first seal, right? Mm-hmm. Because they finally would have had to face the fact that their dad wasn't the hero that they thought he was.
Yeah.
And that he'd broken hell. It still wouldn't have solved that hero complex though, because they would have forgiven him for it. Mm-hmm. They would have forgiven him for it, which is crazy now because Dean does not forgive himself for it, for something that he definitely would have forgiven John for.
Yep. Yeah, it's outright bull honky. Well, and we've also spoken about this before. Is this Alistair lying? Like, is this Alistair lying about John being a potential? Because we've also said like what constitutes a righteous man. I remember this conversation because I was like, oh, it haunts me.
I think I have an answer to the righteous man thing. Okay. I don't think Dean was hellbound, right? Like if he had died under normal circumstances, I don't think he would have gone to hell. So I think what they're using righteous here is someone who was sent to hell unjustly.
Yeah, I could see that.
So it could have been anyone really, I guess, who didn't deserve hell. Mm-hmm. Which does strike John from that list. Because I feel like John would have gone to hell. I don't think he could have been the righteous man. So I think, this is my personal opinion, I think Alistair is telling the truth about the first seal. Cass confirms it later, so yeah, fine. About Dean breaking it. I think that you're right. I think John is brought in to mess with Dean here. I don't think he could have broken the seal.
No, I don't think so either. The only reason why I kind of hesitate a little bit is we don't see what causes people to go to hell in this universe. And I'm just trying to think if there was anything that John had done.
I just feel like it's really tough. Maybe not. Maybe he will. In my opinion, John should have gone to hell. But maybe in the show morality, he should have gone to heaven if he hadn't made that deal, so he could be the righteous man. Fine. But there were other people too who probably fit into that category who'd made demon deals and such. Because supposedly doing a demon deal doesn't automatically sort of blacken your soul or whatever to make you go to hell.
It doesn't?
Well, not if Dean's a righteous man. It doesn't work otherwise. As in, like, it's not the actual making of the contract that, like, taints your soul. It's the fact that you get dragged to hell, but you might still be a good person. Mm-hmm. I mean, think of that guy who, like, saved his wife from a terminal illness through a demon deal. That's true. Had he done things previously to that to mean that he should go to hell? Could he have been the righteous man?
Could Bella have been the righteous man?
But it had to be, I think it had to be someone, yeah, Bella. I think it had to be someone who didn't deserve to go to hell, but got sent to hell anyway, but was also in that bloodline.
Right.
So yes, fine, supernatural logic, it could have been John.
But no, I'm with you on that though. I do think John was always going to be hellbound. There were just things that he was so morally compromised.
Yeah, right.
That I don't think he would have been able to.
He made choices that Dean never would.
Yes. Yeah. Like he would sacrifice human life for getting his way, whereas Dean and Sam would never do that. They wouldn't sacrifice human life.
Yeah.
Not always. 9 times out of 10. Whereas John, it was like 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I love that. We're like 9 times out of 10 is good enough in this universe.
Like I said, there's no rules. There's no laid out rules as to who gets into heaven and who doesn't. Like,
but that's why I like the Sandman theory, where ultimately it's the person that decides. I really don't know. The thing is, it could be both. Very much like this could just be to mess with Dean, or it could be true. Either way, for him emotionally, it doesn't actually really matter whether it's true or not.
That's true. That is very true. And actually, it could never have been John because of what Cass says at the end of this episode. Like the one who broke it, the one who dealt it, like smelt it, dealt it. Like the guy who broke it has to fix it, and
that's true.
John can't come back to fix it.
Another thing that puts this theory to doubt is, well, if it was going to be John, why didn't the angels go and try and drag him out of hell?
Right.
It's not true, Annabelle. John never could have broken the seal. We're on it. No, that's the answer.
Yep. Exactly.
Reiterating what we were saying, I just think it's awful that now Dean believes that and it's not true. That's the worst. Alistair's a dick.
Gallant.
Yeah.
We said that in the same way, but different. Oh, God, I hate the way that they shot this, where you can see Alistair taunting him in the background. Like, he's literally like the demon on his shoulder.
Yes.
Right? Like, whispering in his ear, all these, like, really messed up things.
Yeah.
Because Dean's turned away and, like, he's on the brink of tears. It was at this moment that had his theme played, I would have thrown the TV remote at the TV and not cared.
Do you know what? Actually, no. Screw the podcast. Screw this show. Not watching this anymore. I'm going to turn it off. Get back to my life.
You're having a bit of a Dean moment at the beginning of this episode. Just like throw your hands up in the air and say, I quit.
Yeah, I quit. I'm tired and angry.
Alistair continues and says, we had to break the first seal before any others. Only way to get the dominoes to fall, topple the first one and the rest follow. Dean is just trying so hard. He's just like, tamp down the emotions.
When we win? When we bring on the apocalypse and burn this earth down? We'll owe it all to you? Dean Winchester.
His full name. How dare he? How dare he say his full name?
Because we know this isn't gonna happen, right?
Right.
But the fact that he's like, when we win, like it's inevitable that they're gonna win. But Dean's watched so much TV, so much movies. He knows that humans always prevail. And he can't see it at this point. It's just like, oh, please know that it's going to be okay. Don't listen to the demon.
It's just such a upgrade in power level, right? They're used to hunting ghosts and werewolves, and now they're like the literal devil. Like, it's like, how do I shoot that? You know?
Yeah, right, exactly.
It must just seem insurmountable, and like they have an impossible task, especially because the seals are breaking just one after the other. You know?
Yeah, and they've only managed to save one, but they still like are well over halfway at this point, and they're just literally overwhelmed.
I mean, yeah, and it doesn't seem like the angels are helping. There doesn't seem to be anyone else on their side. They don't have any hunters. It's just him and Sam who are fighting at the moment against cosmic forces.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
I'd be like, do you know what I would be like? Let the apocalypse come. Like, I am tired. I just sit here with my magic fingers, watching like cowboy movies, and just
take a nap.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Alistair says, believe me, son, I wouldn't lie about this. It's horrible that he says son, but okay.
Yep.
It's kind of religious sort of thing with me, which we already know that they view Lucifer as like their god, right?
Especially these higher level demons, they seem to follow him kind of unquestioningly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which makes it interesting to what Uriel says later on in this. Like, Uriel thinks he's so much better than these demons, but yet they all believe in the same being.
I mean, this is it. The hypocrisy of angels in this Annabelle.
Alistair notices the dripping valve, and that it's starting to break the seal, and it's mostly broken the seal. And Dean's like, no, I think you're lying. But even if the demons do win, he turns around with Ruby's knife. He says, you won't be able to see it. But as Dean turns, Alistair's right behind him out of the chains. Alistair says, you should talk to your plumber about the pipes, and starts punching Dean quite aggressively.
We see Dean, and he is getting absolutely obliterated by Alistair. He basically has him on the floor on his knees, holding him by the shirt collar, punching him, which is a shot that we are all so familiar with.
Unfortunately.
I mean, there's something that Supernatural seems to enjoy about people being bloodied on their knees kind of thing, looking up at someone.
It shows a very different, like, power levels, almost.
Yes.
Like, they're so defenseless that all they can do is be held up. Because Dean's not even being able to, like, lift himself. He's so, like, out of it that he can just be slumped on the ground.
It's interesting as well in a show about, like, angels and demons, the whole, like, kneeling thing, right? Like, the religious connotations to that. Because Alistair is someone who looks up to without wanting to, but in this case, physically as well as, like, mentally having to look up to him. Alistair does eventually haul him up and says to him, like, you have a lot to learn, boy. He kind of grabs him against the iron star thing and, like, chokes him. I'm pretty sure there's a behind the scenes thing on this where they say they were going to do this almost like a stunt. And then I think maybe it was Jensen was like, nah, man, just choke me. So yeah, this what we're seeing is pretty I mean, you can kind of
see it. Like, his thumb is, like, in his neck.
Yeah.
It looks painful.
It does look painful, and it looks pretty real, I'll be honest. They did a really good job acting this. I mean, the stunts are spot on in this episode. I have something to say about Cass, but I love Misha. Man can't throw a punch.
Nope. I don't think he gets any better at it.
No, he does the Captain Kirk double fist.
Oh, he did?
He did, yeah. Which I love. I love.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
Yeah. I'm turning a dark moment into a light moment. Okay. So Alistair has Dean against this kind of iron thing, and suddenly, like, Cass is behind him with Ruby's knife, and he manages to stab him as Alistair turns. He stabs him almost where Cass got stabbed, in that shoulder. And it kind of sparks, but doesn't do anything to Alistair. It's not strong enough. Alistair says, looks like God is on my side today. That's a great song, actually. Cass lifts a hand up and, like, twists the knife telepathically, which was gross. I could feel that, like, viscerally, how much that must hurt.
Just even thinking about it, my shoulder's like, ow.
No, I don't like it. Like, Alistair manages to, like, pull it away, although he's clearly fighting against Cass's telekinesis. They have a fight as well, and as I said, like, I just find Misha fighting really funny. I'm sorry, but he does do the Captain Kirk, like, yeah. You should go back. You should watch it. It's good.
I'm gonna go back and watch it for sure.
It does look very cool because he's wearing a trench coat. I think it helps.
His coat is flapping in the wind like his wings.
Exactly. Oh, you can imagine them, right? It's so cool. Alistair eventually gets the better of Cass and, like, also chokes him against the wall. He says, well, like roaches, you Celestials. Now, I really wish I knew how to kill you, but all I can do is send you back to heaven. I have a question here. You might be able to answer it, because I watched it and I was like, no, they didn't. When he has him against the wall, does he impale Cass on something?
Yeah, that was my impression. That's my impression.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like that.
No.
I
mean, at least he was lifted up onto it rather than just pushed back onto it.
I don't know why you have the gift of prophecy, Ben Edlund, but I would like you to stop for my own mental health. I mean, it's too late now. You've written these episodes, but I just there's something there. That's all I'm saying. Is in my mind, there's something there. You know,
it was always going to happen this way.
Something about Cass doubting his faith and getting impaled. Something. Dean impaled. Something. Fill in the gaps, guys. Yeah. So yeah, Alistair starts to exercise Cass, and like blue light starts coming out of like his eyes and mouth. But he suddenly stops when we see Sam has arrived. The gang's all here. Literally what I said out loud last night this episode. Like, the gang's all here. Cass manages to get off whatever hook he was on because he slumps to the ground. Alistair is like pinned to the wall by Sam's demon powers.
Yeah.
Sam asks him who's murdering the angels, because it makes sense. He would also interrogate them. And when Alistair says, do you think I'm going to tell you? Sam says, yeah, I do. He is so much more confident than Dean in this. So he's kind of right in what he said.
He doesn't know Alistair from another demon, so what does it matter to him? Like, there's no... He didn't spend he didn't spend 40 years with this man.
That's true. That's totally true.
He is just another demon. Yes, he's a powerful demon, but he's just another demon.
There's no emotional component there for him to this. Yeah. And you know that he's actually hurting Alistair now because his eyes roll back to white for a second.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens when demons are hurt, right? Any kind of strong emotion.
Yeah, and like, it's almost like they're powering up. Like they have to get to their demon form.
Yeah, like tapping into that to help them through stuff. He asks him again, and Alistair actually admits this time that he doesn't know. So again, proving that he's cracking through. And like Sam is like, I don't know what he's doing to him, but it looks painful. It's like choking him from the inside.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe Dean was torturing the vessel, right? So what Alistair was saying was true. It's not cutting deep enough, right? He said that it was too concrete. So Dean was only cutting through the physical layers of Alistair, whereas Sam's able to basically grab his demon form and like twist. That makes so much sense.
It does, yeah.
You know, Alistair eventually says, like, Lilith's not behind this. She wouldn't kill 7 angels. I presume if she could, she'd kill 100 or 1,000. Sam stops then, because I presume he believes him. And Alistair says, go ahead, send me back if you can. And Sam says, I'm stronger than that now. Now I can kill. And he kind of does the hand-eye thing. And we see almost like a flaring out from that you get from the demon knife, but like inside the whole of Alistair's body, and you never see any smoke come out. He just like collapses to the ground.
The actor's face when he falls to the ground, like his eyes all like bug out and his mouth is gaped open. It honestly looked like this actor just properly died.
I can't praise him enough. Like, it's so good. It is very scary.
It is. It's terrifying because, you know, so far you've seen him, like I said, with the furrow brow, like he's got very prominent like eyebrows, and like his eyes are look kind of small in his face. And then suddenly like his eyes are massive. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh my God, did they actually...
they did kill a dude? Did they just kill a dude on Supernatural? No, it's good. You don't really see people die like this one. He looks like he died like in agony. Yeah. So we see then Dean is in a hospital, like, and he looks bad. He's unconscious. He has like a breathing tube and he's like bandaged up. Cass appears and I kind of laughed when he did this because he kind of just looks in and then walks off. Just like looks in like, oh yeah, he's there. Okay. Sam follows him and kind of shouts at him. He says,
Sam,
get in there and heal him. Miracle. Now.
I can't.
Again, the attitude that they both have now towards angels is so different. Can you imagine like baby Sam shouting at an angel like this?
Not at all.
Just the confidence that his demon powers give him. I think he feels he's on the same level as them now.
Well, yeah, because he interrupted Cass getting exercised.
I mean, yeah, he's stronger than an angel, apparently. What's interesting here is when Sam asks Cass to heal Dean, he says, I can't. And I don't know why that is. Do you think he can't because he doesn't have orders to say that healing him is allowed?
I think so.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like a general rule that you're like angels are not allowed to heal humans at this point. Like it's just something that like if it's God's will for him to die, then it's God's will for him to die.
I don't know. It's an odd one. It just seems convenient. at this point. But I wish they'd given a reason. Like, I just, and he doesn't heal him at all in this episode. It would have made sense to me if at this point he says that he can't, right? Because he's still kind of doubting. By the end of the episode, he's fully doubting his orders. So if he had healed Dean at the end of this episode, it would have been a very symbolic gesture of how far Cass had gone. But maybe he wasn't there yet. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. It's a convenient plot point.
Yes.
Especially because, like, I love it because, like, later seasons, you literally see Dean get, like, a tiny graze on his face and Cass is like, here!
Yeah.
Let me heal that for you.
Let me fix that for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely leans into, like, had he healed him now, we wouldn't have gotten the conversation later.
It'd been more poignant if he had healed him at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I don't know, choices.
It was a makeup decision. They're like, look, we spent hours putting this on him. We're going to keep him in this for a couple of scenes.
Yeah. We worked too hard on this face.
We've rented this hotel room to do this shot. We're going to keep... Production's not allowing it to be so easily swept.
Sam does say, like, you and Uriel put him there. And Cass was like, no, I didn't do that. And Sam says, because you couldn't keep a simple devil's trap together. And Cass says, I don't know what happened. That trap, it shouldn't have broken. I am sorry. So he does finally apologise for that. Mm-hmm. Sam says, the whole thing was pointless. You understand that. The demons aren't doing the hits. Someone else killing your soldiers. And Cass says, perhaps he was lying. But Sam's like, no, he wasn't lying. Cass just looks kind of devastated. I think this is when all the pieces are starting to come together for him, as like, I've been lied to by somebody.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, we don't realise what the significance of the throat injury is yet. But, that's where their grace is.
I mean, yeah, that's why they always take it out, actually, isn't it? It doesn't actually matter on Angels where you stab them. But, yeah, I never thought of Grace being caught up in the throat. I quite like that.
Because, I mean, that every single time they want to extract grace from somebody, it's always at the neck.
That's so true. Yeah.
So I figured that's where it's stored, so...
And only an angel would maybe know that that's a weak point, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that was kind of pointed out when you saw the angel at the beginning of the episode. It was that her throat had the injury, like, right there.
That's so good. Yeah, that's right, actually. Huh. Never thought about it before.
So I think that's when it kind of clicks with Cass that, like, okay, so if demons... And also the fact that Alistair says, if I could kill you, then I would, but I can only send you to hell. Or to heaven. Yeah. So I used to say send you to hell. Send you to heaven. So, like, I think that plus... Yeah. It's all just everything, it's clicking into place.
All the puzzle pieces in his mind, like, there's like... on Sherlock or whatever, where all the things are spinning around. He's like, oh my God. So we see Cass walk up to Uriel. They're in looking over like a children's park, and it's snowy. I wonder if this is the same park that's supposed to be the gates to heaven later on. Oh. It looks similar. Yeah, when they finally had to, like, we need a gate to heaven, like, where should we put it? They're like, oh yeah, we've done this thing unintentionally this whole time. So Uriel sat on a bench with his eyes closed. He looks like he is receiving something from up above. And he says, I receive revelation from our superiors. Our brothers and sisters are dying and they want us to stop hunting the demon responsible. Uriel says something's wrong up there. I can feel it. Or what they said, can you feel it? Cassiel says, the murders, maybe they aren't demonic. Sam Winchester said the demons had nothing to do with it. So it's kind of like, so interesting, this conversation, knowing Uriel now. He's just lying.
Yeah.
Outright.
And you can kind of see it though, a little bit. Like, he doesn't question that. He doesn't like Sam.
No.
Surely his first reaction should be like, well, Sam's a piece of shit. He's obviously lying.
I mean, true. Yeah. Like, you believe Sam now, the demon boy?
Yeah, exactly.
So Castiel says, like, maybe it's the will of heaven. We are failing. We are losing the war. Perhaps we're being punished. And Yura says, do you think our father would? And then Cass says, I think maybe our father isn't giving the orders anymore. Maybe there is something wrong, which he hasn't been giving the orders for a long time, Cass.
But, since the beginning of time.
Yeah. Uriel goes to leave and says, well, I won't wait to be gutted, and disappears. Oh, okay, I just talk about this. First of all, the setting of this scene. Cass is stood under a round street light, and they shoot him from below, so it looks like a halo above his head when he stood there. And then as Anna appears, it flickers. Just the symbolism is beautiful. 10 out of 10. It's amazing. Anna appears, and she says, decided to kill me after all, but Cass is by himself.
I'm considering disobedience.
I love that it's something I'm considering doing in the future. Not something that I've maybe already done a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Anna says, good.
For the first time, I feel...
Yeah.
Feeling what, Cass? Feeling what? Feeling what? I mean, doubt, obviously.
Obviously, doubt. Obviously, wink, wink. Doubt.
He doesn't describe to Anna here what he's feeling, but she just says to him, it gets worse. Choosing your own course of action is confusing, terrifying. She kind of puts her hand on his shoulder, and then he kind of looks at it and she puts it down again, because previously he had pulled away from her in the other room they were in. And she said, that's right, you're too good for my help. I'm just trash, a walking blasphemy. And as she goes to walk away, Cass stops her and says, I don't know what to do. Please tell me what to do. Which makes sense, because she used to be his superior. Cass needs orders to function. This is how he's functioned up to this point. So it must be really scary to just suddenly have to make your own decisions. Mm-hmm. And Anna says, no, like the old days, I'm sorry, it's time to think for yourself, and leaves him alone. Poor Cass. But at the same time, good for Cass.
Yeah. Poor Cass, but good Cass, but poor Cass, but good Cass. Yeah. So many emotions, so many things.
So I guess the first decision he's making is to go and look at the Devil's Trap and question what happened there. Mm-hmm. Because he goes back to that room, he looks at it, notices the dripping tap thing, and turns it off with his mind, which he literally could have just reached out and turned that. But he's like, no, I'm going to use my mind powers. No one's around to see it. It's fine. Just be lazy. Uriel enters the room and says, you called? And says, well, what do you say, Castiel? Will you join me? Will you fight with me?
Strange how a leaky pipe can undo the work of angels when we ourselves are supposed to be the agents of fate.
Ben Edlund just writes things sometimes where you're like, this must come from somewhere. And you're like, nope, he just wrote them.
Yep. It's just wow.
Yep. But he's essentially accusing Uriel here, he's saying, we're the agents of fate, and somehow this pipe turned on that let him escape. So who was involved here?
Who was it? It wasn't me.
But he says it much better than that because he's an angel. Uriel blames Alistair being too powerful, but Cass is like, well, no, I made that trap myself, actually. So since we've been friends a long time, Uriel, fought by each other's sides, served together away from home for what seems like forever. We're brothers. Pay me that respect. Tell me the truth. And Uriel says, the truth is the only thing that can kill an angel. And then he slides the blade out of his sleeve and says, is another angel. And it's like,
yes.
I mean, the betrayal, though, because Cass is right. He's in his garrison. As far as we know, I mean, he called him brother. He called that dead angel sister. They are family, and they're all turning on each other. You know how important family is in this series.
Yeah. Can you imagine if at this point Cass confided in Dean that his family was falling apart?
Yeah.
Dean would have more sympathy for Cass's situation.
He would, right? They would definitely vibe on that level of yeah, I'm fighting with my brother too, actually. Let's go out for drinks.
Get you a whole liquor store. Certain decisions that they make in the show are things that have to be used for the rest of the show, right? Mm-hmm. And this angel blade reveal is the thing for angels. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This one time was done, and then suddenly everybody has to start doing it the same way.
Yeah.
So then we cut back, and Cass says "you," very accusatory, And he was like, oh, I'm afraid so. I just love killing. I just love killing.
Ah, shucks.
He says, you broke the devil's trap and set Alistair free. Uriel says, Alistair should have never been taken alive. Really inconvenient, Cass. So it's interesting that he's changed to Cass now too.
That's true. Yeah, as maybe he's seeing the same doubt in Cass. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think it's symbolic.
Yeah, it's like, this is how I can reason with him, is by calling him this nickname that these petty humans get.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Get on their level for a second. I won't use Angel Radio, but I will use my friend's new nickname.
So the plan was always for Alistair to escape, kill Dean, and then they could have carried on with this, idea that demons are killing angels. Mm-hmm. Cass says, murdering our kin. Uriel says, no, Castiel. So he goes back.
Yeah.
No, my work is conversion. How long have we waited here? How long have we played this game by the rules that make no sense?
Fair.
Welcome to life.
But also fair. I actually think Uriel has a point here. Why are we just here blindly following orders? What's it actually for? Who's sending them? Because if he thinks that they're not being sent by God anymore, what's he doing? What's his purpose?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cass is like, what is our father's world? And he's like, our father, he stopped being that if he ever was, the moment he created them, humanity, his favorites, these whining, puking larvae.
I mean, he sounds very much like Lucifer here.
He does.
Yeah.
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 So there's the 4 of them, right? Gabriel's all for them because he likes making it all 4 humans because they're entertaining to him, right?
Yeah.
Raphael doesn't like humans. Michael doesn't like humans.
Nope.
And neither does Uriel.
It's almost like they all had contempt for humans, but Lucifer was the loudest and a scapegoat. Look, I'm not saying that Lucifer in this show is good, but he did have a point.
Exactly. And when you meet God, it's understandable.
I mean, if your dad was Chuck,
Oh,
I'm right.
how awful.
And it does feel like, and I mean, this has been pointed out biblically as well, I guess. It doesn't seem like Lucifer was the only one saying these things, but he was the he made an example of to get everyone else in line. Yeah.
I wanted you to join me, and I still do. With you, we can be powerful enough to raise our brother.
And he says, do you remember him? How strong he was, how beautiful he was. So it really is Lucifer was literally a shining example of what not to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was the best of them.
Yeah.
I say best in quotation marks. He can be punished by God.
Yeah. It's really funny because when he was saying that, I was just picturing Mark Pellegrino and I was like...
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. The vessel doesn't quite match the idea that they have of Lucifer in this season.
No. So Uriel continues and says, he didn't bow to humanity. He was punished for defending us. Now, if you want something to believe in, Cass, believe in him. Mm. And Cass says, Lucifer is not God. Tell that to the demons. God isn't God anymore. He doesn't care what we do. I'm proof of that. Mm. Because he is killing and converting angels without punishment.
I mean, yeah, there's no repercussions for anything that Uriel's done. No one stopped him from doing it. And that must be the ultimate proof to him that either what he's doing is right or nobody cares.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Cass says, what are you going to do? You're just going to kill the whole garrison. Uriel's like, no, I'm only going to kill the ones that say no. So join me or you will die. Now, please, brother, don't fight me. Help me spread the word. Help bring on the apocalypse.
All you have to do is be unafraid.
I like the way he says it, though, biblical. It's like, all you have to do is be unafraid. Be not afraid. Mm-hmm. With the eyes and the wings and the big rotating stuff.
And Cass says, for the first time in a long time, I am.
Unafraid, presumably. Probably afraid. I got a bit confused in the wording of this because they were saying it so fancy and I'm not very smart.
I mean, the reason why I got that, he was unafraid was because he just punches him in the face, sending him through a wall.
Pretty good.
It's pretty great. Yeah. They start to fight And we get into the same position as Dean was.
Mm-hmm.
That Cass is now on his knees being clobbered in the face by Uriel.
It's almost like he's the way he's lit from above, even though before this room has been really dark, and he's looking up, almost like he himself is receiving revelation. It's like this is the realization. Cass is finally realizing what's going on here.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cass says, you can't win this. I still serve God. And Uriel says, you haven't even met the man, which is where I was like, oh, has he actually met God? Like I said, he's supposed to be an archangel, so...
I don't think so. I don't think they're going with Uriel as an archangel. I think your theory's solid. I don't think the supernatural writers read the Bible.
So yeah, he says, you haven't even met the man. There is no will, no wrath, no God. And each time he says... punctuates his statements with a punch to Cass. As he does his final punch and he raises his fist to punch him again, he gets stabbed through the throat. And Anna says, maybe or maybe not.
But there's still me.
She then pulls out the blade and Uriel collapses. And as he falls to the ground, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen. And then suddenly, his eyes and mouth start to glow blue, and there's a big expulsion of light. And then we come back and we have a similar kind of aerial shot of Uriel on the ground with his wings burned into the ground.
I love their slightly different shape from the woman's at the beginning. Just their uniqueness of their wings is quite cool. So our last cut is to the hospital, and Dean is still pretty banged up, though he no longer looks unconscious. He's awake and sat up. His face is kind of strapped up and he has a lot of cuts. And Cass is sat next to him in the hospital room, which, I don't know, it's a very human gesture from Cass. We've seen him sit on a bed before, but I don't know, him sat next to Dean is just, I don't know. There's something about it. And Cass asks him, are you all right? And Dean says, no thanks to you. Castiel says, you need to be more careful. And Dean says, and you need to learn how to manage a damn devil's trap. The bickering. Cass says, that's not what I mean. Uriel is dead. He says, it was disobedience. He was working against us, because Dean asked if it was demons, which would make sense. But then Dean asks Cass if it's true, if he broke the first seal. He said, did I start all of this? Cass pauses for a second and then says, yes. When we discovered Lilith's plan for you, we laid siege to hell and fought our way to get to you before you. And Dean breaks in and says, jump-started the apocalypse. Which again is why I don't think John could have done it, because where was the siege on hell to get John out?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. He says, we were too late. And then Dean asks, well, why didn't you just leave me there? If they'd already broken the first seal, what possible use could Dean have to come out of hell? And Cassa says, it's not blame that falls on you, Dean, it's fate.
So, is this when it was cemented that Dean is not a fan of fate? We already know that he's fate's a bunch of bull.
I think he's always just thought that destiny and everything was absolute crap, right? That why should they have to go along with it? What Cass is doing here is kind of trying to absolve him of what he did in hell, and saying it was never really a choice, it was always going to happen. When it happened is neither here nor there. You couldn't help this. That this is the path you were on. So maybe trying to stop him from blaming himself so much for that.
Yeah.
The righteous man who begins it is the only one who can finish it.
It's almost like a prophecy, right?
Yes.
Again, Dean has no choice in any of this. He was destined to start it. He's destined to finish it. There's no way out of that. He's been railroaded.
Yep. It's you got yourself into this mess. You're going to have to get yourself out of it. But it's a mess that you didn't really ask for.
Yeah. But he's just a character in a video game, right? He's like Mario. You have to get from one end to the other, but some unknowing God put you there. So Dean says, Lucifer, the apocalypse. What does that mean?
Don't you go disappearing on me, you son of a bitch. What does that mean?
It's the first time he asks Cass to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cry, Amy!
And Cass actually listens.
He does. He stays for some time. He says, "I don't know," and Dean says, "Bull." He says, "I don't know. They don't tell me much. I know our fate rests with you." And Dean says, "Well, you guys are screwed. I can't do it, Cass. It's too big. Alistair's right. I'm not all here. I'm not strong enough."
Well, I guess I'm not the man either of our dads wanted me to be. Find someone else. It's not me.
And then he does like the single man tear down his nose of like, yeah, a lot in that line. It's the saying like, not the man either of our dads wanted me to be.
Mm-hmm.
Dean thinks he's just disappointing every father figure he's ever had, including God. I mean, this man is literally here saying, "Oh, I've disappointed God."
Yeah.
Like, you never even met God. You don't know how much of a dick he is.
Exactly. And like everything that Cass just said just did not sink in. Not at all. Like,
No.
I guess because, Cass doesn't speak clearly, right?
You're right, yeah.
Had he been a bit more direct and being like, he says, you have to stop it. Like, not that you're the only one who can stop it. It's you have to stop it. Like, if someone said that to you, that's a lot of pressure. Like, I have to stop the apocalypse. Oh, no, thank you.
I mean, Dean's life has just been constant tasks, right? It's been look after Sammy, kill Sammy if he gets out of line. Oh, wait, no, now you have to protect Sammy again. That's the most important thing. You have to protect your family. Now you have to save humanity. And now it's going on to like, now you have to save the world, Dean. It's a lot. He's not just left to his own devices. Dean's never been in control of his own life, ever.
Yeah, no.
Not once. I mean, at least Sam had some taste of freedom. But not once has Dean been in control of his own life. And then he has Cass saying that it's fate. This was always supposed to be like this. Like, how much was supposed to be like this? All of it? He was always supposed to break the first seal. So he was always supposed to go to hell. So he was always going to die trying to save Sam. Like, how far back does this go? I mean, it would mess with your head so much.
It would, yeah.
You would question every decision that you make. You'd be like, burger or fries today? Like, which one am I fated to get? It hasn't got to the point yet where he's angry enough to, like, rail against it. He's very much stuck in it at the moment, thinking, I just have to get to the finish line. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. There comes a point in the series where he's like, actually, no, screw your fate. I'm not doing what I've been told to do. And actually actively tries to work against it. But yeah, this Dean isn't there yet. He's just sad and tired. What a Cass episode, though. Like, we've seen little points of him doubting stuff over his appearances so far. But this was it. This was him saying, no, I'm not. The thing is, at the moment, he does still think he's on Heaven's side because Uriel was a traitor and they took the traitor out. So...
this is where I'm like, yes, Anna helped him out, but she helped him out for her own purposes.
Yeah.
Because she's essentially doing the same thing as Uriel, but like the outcome is to still stop the apocalypse, but it's to also change the way heaven is.
Yeah, it's a tough one because essentially by disobeying orders in this episode, he did the right thing. Like, it stopped Uriel from killing other angels who were trying to start the apocalypse. His brain must be not computing that. It's like, how can I go against my orders and it has a good outcome towards our goal? The only conclusion is that the orders don't matter.
Which does not help his need to follow orders.
I mean, yeah, this is it. It's very complex.
It is. It's an episode that's kind of difficult to rewatch because it is so emotional, but you need to rewatch it a few times to really grasp the, like, weight.
Yeah. And a lot of this is not so emotionally charged until you rewatch it and know where this is going. I mean, for Cass's character arc, this is the moment, like, this is the episode where everything kind of kicks off and you can see... I mean, we talk about Dean and Sam's character development stalling, right? Cass's never did. Like, it starts here and goes right through to season 15, and I understand all the choices that he makes because of these moments. Some of them are stupid choices, but you understand why he makes them. I mean, think about this conversation with Dean and how much responsibility Dean's taken on himself to stop the apocalypse, not wanting to do it, not wanting to have to go through that, compared to Cass in season 6, where he takes it all on himself and keeps it secret from Sam and Dean that he's trying to stop all the, everything happening. But that could almost be directly tied to this, where he's like, well, I don't want to put that burden on them. I'm trying to solve things myself for the sake of the Winchesters.
Right.
I don't know why they couldn't write everyone's character arcs as good as Cass. I mean, it has its moments where you're like, why?
And I mean, you also have the added advantage of that he's not in every single episode.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, you can do more leaps and bounds with his character development than you can with the Sam and Dean, because they are, like, I couldn't imagine it, like, season 1 to season 2 being the character development that you see so quickly in Cass.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Because we've seen him go, literally, he's been in, like, 4 or 5 episodes this season, right? And it's just immediately gone, like, oh, yeah, free will. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. They can keep his character more consistent because he's not in as many episodes and not written by as many writers, maybe. Or they have a better idea of what he's supposed to be like because there is not so much content with Cass.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough, though. I just want Cass in every episode. But you're right. They probably would have ruined his character.
Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it.
Right, exactly.
And you might get eaten by a giant snake.
That's true. Tiamat, she'll get me. I mean, yeah, Ben Edlund, perfect work.
Yeah.
Amazing. Directly ties to The Man Who Would Be King, which is not for another 2 seasons yet, and I can't wait. I don't know how he comes in and just writes these, like, banger of an episodes that fit perfectly in the plot line.
I wonder if he, like, just sits and ponders it.
I hope so. Why was Ben Edlund another showrunner? I would have liked to have seen the arc that he did. Maybe he didn't want to be.
I mean, it's a lot of responsibility, so...
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen what Ben Edlund did with the whole story arc. Like, I would... Maybe he's like Stephen Moffat and just would have been terrible, but we'll see. Can write really good one-off episodes and then can't do a whole arc. It's episodes everything. If you've watched it and then listened to this, go rewatch it. Watch Cast of the Double Fist, because that's the best part of the episode.
It is.
Go look for that religious symbolism in flickering lights and people being on their knees. And
there is so much here, and it's dare I say, it's a perfect episode.
It's perfect, apart from that one face that Sam makes while driving. I'm joking. It's fine. No, it is. This is one of the top 10 episodes, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said at the beginning, it's the performances of everybody, the way it's written, just everything. Like, everybody took a step forward in this episode.
Yeah. Dean being so vulnerable with Cass at the end when he wouldn't have ever admitted any of that to Sam. Mm-hmm. Don't read too much into it though, Annabelle.
Nope, not at all. It doesn't sound like a conversation that you might have, if you have maybe homophobic parents.
I mean, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Right?
Oh man.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, next episode we have It's
Whiplash.
a Terrible Life. Yeah. I only have one good tidbit on that, which I saw on Tumblr. I will reblog the post and I'll tell you about it next week. Most people probably know this now, but it's one of my favourite things that someone found out, and I'm like, I don't know how you found out this information, but I love you. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about, but I don't want the podcast to be 3 hours long, so...
Like, we want to know from you guys. Reach out to us and, like, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, at the end of the episode, we'd like to thank the Pixel Gore for his amazing logo art. You can find that on Redbubble, and you can order it on stickers, pins, tote bags, all of the fancy stuff, even t-shirts. and a portion of the profits will go to him as a thank you. You can also find us all over the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. Yes, those are the ones.
Those are the ones.
Search for Escaping Purgatory Podcast or Escaping Podcast on Twitter. And we want to know your thoughts and feelings about this episode in particular, and anything that we could have missed in terms of like what comes up. Yeah. Like in later seasons, because I'm sure there's lots that could be related back to moments in this that we've missed.
Yeah.
Or couldn't get to.
I agree with you there, actually. Yeah. I know their stuff. So this week, we had ourselves a little torture, we had ourselves a little blood, we have ourselves a little stabby time, but ultimately it all ended with a sad conversation in a hospital room. So hopefully next week we can find our way out. Bye.
Bye.
I'm so sorry. I was so pleased.